and welcome to this Telcordia webinar. My name is Tom Forsyth and I will be your moderator today. While we wait for others to join us, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar will last approximately 50 minutes. If you have questions regarding any of the information being covered in today's webcast, you may submit questions at any time by simply entering your question in the box located in the lower left corner of the webcast interface and click Submit. We will respond to your questions by email. For basic troubleshooting information, please click on the Help button located on your screen. You may enlarge the slides in today's presentation by clicking on the Enlarge Slides button. And finally, this webcast will be archived for 12 months, so you or a colleague can access it after today's live presentation. The archived webcast will be posted within 24 hours on this same website. But first, a few words about Telcordia, just in case there's anyone on the call that doesn't know who we are. Telcordia Solutions deliver the experience to over 1 billion users around the world. We have offices in 16 countries with over 2,600 employees. With more than 1,800 patents issued by the company, delivering industry-leading technologies, our solutions are deployed in some of the world's largest networks, supporting the most innovative brands. For example, Telcordia customers took over 40% of net adds in India in the past year. Today's topic is service usage personalization and the role of convergent billing. Our first speaker is Karl Whitelock, Director of OSS and BSS Strategy at Stratecast, a division of Frost & Sullivan. With over 25 years industry experience, Karl has particular expertise in strategic market analysis and trend positioning within the converging communications marketplace. He has extensive real-life experience with global service provider business management and network operations in companies such as Agilent, Accenture, and Quest. He was one of the original founders of Stratecast Partners, now a division of Frost & Sullivan. Karl will examine the numerous market drivers within today's business landscape. Customers want services that satisfy specific needs that require payment options beyond just simple prepay and postpay. Karl will discuss how these drivers are changing the dynamics of the communications industry and how real-time charging can improve customer satisfaction and increase loyalty through the use of innovative new business models. Our second speaker is Graham Cobb, Marketing Director, Revenue Management Solutions of Market at Telcordia. Graham will look at how CSPs can address this dynamic business environment and how CSPs must incorporate enhanced ways to meet customer demand. This means real-time business management and new operational models are essential for long-term survival. Graham's talk will show how key BSS functions can have a profound effect on customer satisfaction and also enforce how new business models will make a difference if the right real-time capabilities are put in place. So, without further ado, over to Karl.
Thank you, Tom. You know, in this age of technology change, the end users of network services, the true customers, talk a lot about what they need tied to making things better. For most of them, this means that they need a touchscreen user device to keep life interesting. They want portability, but not too much portability if it's going to cost a lot. They believe there's now an app for everything, and they really aren't that far off. They also want entertainment from downloads of video, games, and interaction with social networking. They want services and calling plans that meet their specific tastes. So this means something that might work well in one region may not necessarily work well in another. So it really means being in tune with what the things are that appeal to every age group in every area. They also love new technology, especially if it brings new ways to work or to get done the tasks that are a part of everyday life. This is especially applicable for the rising generation of those under 25. And of course, they want cost subsidization. And many are willing to do extra things to get free minutes of use, free applications, free texting, and deeply discounted mobile devices. But what this all translates into for them, however, is really just two or three things. They now take for granted an always-on, always available, and always affordable broadband connection, especially a mobile broadband connection. They really complain when mobile roaming costs catch them off guard. So they really want to stay in touch all of the time, especially through social networking. Just ask anyone under the age of 25 if they've been on their favorite social network site at least once already today. They also want entertainment on the fly. So I believe YouTube and similar video sites will get bigger and better with time. And most importantly, they want what I call cool new stuff, the wow factor of technology, working at different levels to provide an overall better experience. So what exactly is the wow factor? Well, the wow factor, if you think about it from a user device perspective, it's without question the tablet PC. And not just any tablet, but one that presently owns more than 95% of this growing market. It is what every customer wants now in 2011, and I suspect tablet PCs will be what everyone will continue to want in 2012, 2013, and even beyond that. So why? Why is the tablet in such demand? Well, there are many reasons for this, but please ask yourself why you want something like an iPad. Mostly, I think it's because it provides easy and simple access to applications of all kinds and other things, be it video, calendars, access to photos, search, social networking, did I say that one already? Movies, and we're just getting started. It's the touchscreen format that encourages all users to try things they really wouldn't try otherwise. You know, and it's most interesting is that the newest user group for the tablet, the iPad in particular, are the 2- and 3-year-olds. Just ask anyone that owns an iPad and who has a small toddler. You'll be surprised with the answer if you don't know already. This group knows their way to the right icons to get to the games and video and pictures that are specifically for them. They are taking to this technology like ducks to water. What lies ahead in 12 to 15 years as these users start to have their first real dose of disposable income? Okay, so it isn't just about consumer wants and what they see as exciting and useful. It also applies to business. Citrix, for example, has come out with a download for the tablet called Go to My PC. Just as the name implies, you can access a PC or laptop anywhere that is connected to the Internet. You do this through a 3G or Wi-Fi connection via your tablet. In just the past 6 months alone, more than 700,000 downloads to the iPad have been registered. There's another business application example. Salesforce.com offers a collaboration tool called Chatter. This application is accessed through the cloud and allows various departments in the same company to freely exchange ideas or insights. And that exchange, of course, happens behind your company firewall. There's been more than 1 million downloads of this app to date. So, carrying things a step further, it's interesting because when the iPad 2 came out for sale in mid-March of just this year, just a few weeks ago, there were lines of people waiting at many Apple stores. Some were even waiting overnight. When the national news media here in the U.S. interviewed these people, many already owned an iPad, they asked them why they needed the iPad 2. The strangest answer I have ever heard came from this. More than 50% said they really didn't know, but they just knew they had to have one of these new devices. So, of course, social status is a big driver here, but there are other things, too. Those things that, again, go back to simplicity of use, interactive touchscreen technology, availability of applications, and the invitation to try something new. I think also it's the fact that the iPad is a bit larger than a smartphone, and it just seems to be the right size for most people. Apps on these devices are extremely easy to use, as I mentioned, and they're easy to get to, and they're also very affordable. So when you talk about this wow factor, where does that lead us for service providers? Where do they stand in all of this? Well, I've got some answers for that part too. It's in making access services easy to use and to understand, first and foremost. For example, as a customer, selling me a 5 gig data download plan may sound great from a technology perspective, but how does that translate into how many videos I can watch? Can you tell me that? Of course not, because it really depends on if the video is the latest customer-produced viral sensation through YouTube, a full-length studio movie. If it's in HD format, well, you get the picture. So the key here is that we need to think more like the end customer rather than the technologist we all are. Another wow factor for service providers in all this is making billing easier, informing customers of current charges and balances after every event, changing prices dynamically according to network conditions for access or availability, and giving service controls to the end customer, the levers and the dials, so to speak, so they can feel more empowered. Also providing access to location and presence functions to the app developer community so they can deliver more effective and more appealing things to the end users that are now addicted to their tablet or smartphone. And combine this capability with flexible billing options could really provide a multiple killer app business opportunity. So accelerated change is how customers want communication services and content packages is happening in a major way. We're just seeing the beginnings of this now. But there really is more. As this slide depicts, there are three ingredients that make up what customers are receiving today. It really is life-changing when you think about it. You know, touchscreen technology that's such a vital part of smartphones and tablets was introduced just about 4 years ago. What are things going to be like in another 4 years? Sometimes it's mind-boggling to think. However, life-changing services are as natural a part of many customers' lives today as putting on a well-worn shoe. So the bottom line here is that change will persist as long as technology evolves, regulations advance, and customer demand continues. It's the very essence of why business innovation and market evolution will forever redefine the face of the new communications marketplace. It's also the reason why digital commerce is essential for future business success, as it augments the 120-year-old technology sales model and replaces it with new ways to gain customer attention and trust. So for everyone, this means generating new service offers that include network and partner-based capabilities in hours and days, not months, as in times past. It also means offering customers choice, not in which end-to-end service plans you may make available, but in the order or inclusion of the piece parts they want to make unique services a viable reality for them. So the age of personalization in user device, service options, mobile applications, and billing plans is what I call the secret sauce that many service providers have sought for a long time. It's what I believe is the way to gain the right kind of customers and to keep them. Further to the points we've been talking about are the results of a recent survey we, Stratecast, conducted with Telecom Asia magazine just a few weeks ago. We posed the question of life-changing services to that audience, and well, you see the trend. This was one that's been done over the last 4 years. So the concept of this life-changing services isn't just talk. It's answering the call for what customers want. These services are based on real-time interaction and can involve any combination of factors. I think what's most exciting for the CSP community is the critically essential role operations functions, including real-time rating and charging, user controls, dynamic provisioning, and even customer assurance play in keeping the customer experience the best possible. The age of service personalization is certainly upon us. Now, there are truly a number of other wow factors that are either here or we don't realize them yet, or are nascent but show much potential. And I could talk about all kinds of examples, but time won't let me do that. But I do want to share a couple of very quick ones. Within the automobile industry, for example, I recently learned about a significant new development involving machine-to-machine mobile communications with a class of car produced by one of the major European auto manufacturers. In this particular case, crossing international borders involves many things, including now regulations on the level of performance and even horsepower allowed before needing to pay extra tariffs or fines. So going into the country with such restrictions, the car automatically senses that a change in engine performance and power throughput is necessary. It informs the driver that the engine's horsepower will now be automatically reduced by a certain percent. and to be in compliance with the laws applicable to the area they're now driving through. And that information comes as both a message as well as a voice. Upon exiting this country and into another where such restrictions are not applicable, the car asks the driver if they wish to increase power throughput, and if so, and this is what I love here, for an extra number of euros, the car will automatically make the adjustment to give the driver full power capacity, thereby delivering maximum flexibility with speed and performance. Yet another quick example in another part of the world, near-field communications, or NFC, has completely changed the retail industry applicable to vending machines, purchase of goods at the local store, train tickets, and much, much more. So the bottom line here is that the age of personalization is upon us. It will be enabled through a myriad of things, but business success now and in the months ahead lies in just a few factors here. First, how well a service provider can bring the multiple components together that constitute the types of services we've mentioned here today. Of course, doing so in a customer-appealing manner. It's also about how quickly new service options can be implemented. This is in reference to the way services are provided and how they are priced, as well as what they deliver. It's also about how simply they can be presented in a virtual sense to the customer base so that they know about and can make informed decisions. It's also about how flexibly they can be priced so that change, if necessary, can be implemented now and the results can be recognized a few minutes, but no more than a few hours from now. It's also how easily users can incorporate service controls to better address their personal needs, how effortlessly can usage information be collected and processed in real time when needed, and certainly how solidly services can be supported when customers need help. So with that brief discussion, I'd like to turn the rest of the time today over to my friend, Graham Cobb. Graham?
Thank you very much, Karl. Well, after that great introduction, I want to follow on and talk a bit about how Karl's description of success with LifeChanging Services could actually be implemented. I'm going to talk a bit about delivering revenue and service innovation. That's really the key here. By using personalized customer-centric services to create a strategy for success. And I'm going to give you a few examples of operators who are doing that around the world today. But let me start off by talking about what I mean by delivering revenue and service innovation. I see that really breaks down into three areas. The first of them is to actually deliver on the promises to the users, things that Karl's been talking about. Creating the wow factor is what delivering the experience is about. It's about these life-changing services and matching them to the customer's lifestyle so that the individual customers are feel they're in charge and are getting the service that they want. These services may come from the service providers, the operators themselves, but also they're going to come, in many cases, from partners. And it's about bringing on board those partners and making sure that there's an environment in which partners can make money at the same time by using the features that you're providing. Trouble with that vision is that's a great idea, but unfortunately there's a whole lot of competitors out there trying to do the same thing and trying to get there first. So key to this is faster time to market. Time to market is really what leads to being in charge, being able to move first before the competitors do, being able to lead the competition and force them to react, being able to drive changes. And along with that comes the ability to charge premium prices. As the first entrant to the market, there's much more scope for making money out of a service than if you're the last entrant. So it's about creating these differentiated services extremely rapidly, and we'll come back to that theme at the end, where some of the customers that I'm going to talk about are in a mode where they're doing that in a matter of days. Of course, the reason to do all this is to make money. So the third part is profitability. Really, the key to profitability is innovative services. They allow you to generate profits in sort of three ways. First is the first mover advantage. that I just mentioned with time to market. If you're the first to market, then you can charge the premium price. And as your competitors enter the market, you can choose to reduce those prices to deny the same benefit and capability to them. But it's not just about the first mover advantage. The key thing in profitability is to make sure that you're making the best of the customer's willingness to pay. Different customers have different willingness to pay. They're willing to pay for different services. They're willing to pay different prices to get higher levels of quality or comfort or convenience. And so it's important to be able to create services which are targeted to segments and customers within those segments. And where possible, allow the customers to self-select. Allow the customers who are willing to spend more money to have things to spend that money on. And that model is crucial for driving up profitability. And the third side is that the third case is the two-sided business model. It's not going to be enough just to enable service providers' own services. It's crucial to build partnerships and to provide a platform on which partners can be successful. That might be providing charging features for them, it might be providing advertising, it might be managing the services and delivering them to the user, or managing the network resources. So there are lots of ways in which to enable that, but the two-sided business model is an important part of profitability. So let me take one example to illustrate what I mean. I'm going to talk about mobile broadband. And everyone in the mobile broadband space is currently talking about how do you do pricing. Everyone's moving from flat rate to tiered pricing. So there's nothing innovative particularly about doing that. Along with moving to tiered pricing, people are putting in controls to manage the network resources. That's an important part, of course. But the question is, how do you actually take a lead? How do you deliver revenue and service innovation in mobile broadband? And the key is to differentiate, to do something different from the competitors in the market. Now, that's easy to say, but it's harder to achieve. And in our view, the key to that, linking back to what Karl's saying, it's about making the services the center of the business, but to create differentiated value that the customers are willing to pay for. That means focusing on what the customers perceive as value. What is it that they want to get out of something? It means moving away from charging for bytes. It's no longer the case that a byte is a byte. You have to be able to deliver a complete package which the customer will value at a higher value than just the number of bytes involved in it, essentially. There are other aspects in that as well, like dynamic pricing, where you adjust the price depending on everything from simple time of day, but also increasingly things like network resources in order to make sure you're charging more if the resource is more heavily used, just like the airline industry does today, where they charge higher prices for tickets on popular routes or popular times of day. So bringing in dynamic pricing is an important tool. And the only way to do that is to have an integrated real-time environment that puts together the policy and charging that's required for delivering mobile broadband. So let me give an example of what I mean here. I'm going to take a simple example of someone who purchases an iPad. The key here is to be able to create some basic services, but in particular to be able to create add-ons and impulse buys that people are willing to pay for. So imagine I've just purchased my iPad, and it's a 3G iPad, but I don't initially believe that I want to use the mobile data network, the 3G network. So maybe I purchase a SIM, I get set up an account with an operator, but I don't actually commit to paying anything. There's no monthly charge. And for that, the operator gives me access to their portal from which I can purchase additional services from them, but I can't get to the outside world, to the internet, from the 3G connection. But after I've had the iPad for a while, I've used it at home, it's great fun sitting on the sofa, but I decide that I actually want to be able to use it while I'm traveling around. And probably in that environment, the key thing is access to email. So maybe the first thing I do is I say, okay, I want to add email access over the 3G. So I initially sign up for that, and maybe that's a very low price. maybe there's no monthly fee associated with it, just per byte charging, say, for the email, just to encourage me in there. So after I've been using email for a short while, I decide actually I'd like to be able to click on these links that people send me. So I decided I was going to upgrade to web browsing, to include web browsing. So I upgrade to the bronze level basic web browsing. Maybe that's charged in 100 megabyte chunks or something like that. While I'm there on the web portal, I get a view maybe a bit like the one on the screen here. And while I'm selecting that bronze level, I notice that actually I can add into that, say, unlimited high-speed access to World of Warcraft game site for nights and evenings for a fixed price. So many euros a month, unlimited access, even though my basic web browsing service is charged per megabyte. And then while I'm there, maybe I also see a special offer on this weekend's big football match, high-definition video access to ESPN to watch this weekend's big match for a fixed price of $3.99. Again, that's something that may appeal to me. It might be an impulse buy. Oh, yes, that would be fun. Let's try that on the iPad, see how well that works. And $3.99, yeah, that seems like a fair price. I've no idea how much it would cost me if I just use my web access, which is charged per megabyte, so I'll pay that fee. So what's happened there is the operator has got a customer to sign up to a basic service, but also to buy add-ons and upgrades, and in particular impulse buys. And the key thing is that customers are likely to compare the basic price of the headline service, but they're much less likely to compare directly the prices of the add-ons, and in particular the impulse buys from different network operators. So there's a lot of scope there for generating highly profitable services which people value and feel are a fair price, but which actually are very profitable to the operator. So how do you go about actually delivering that revenue and service innovation? Well, for service innovation, really, it's key to have a service creation environment to be able to generate new services rapidly. For the revenue innovation side, you need to be able to package those services into bundles, promotions, add-ons, impulse buys, etc., in the way I've just described. And for that, you need a real-time charging environment for both prepaid and postpaid users. There's nothing here which is only limited to prepaid. It's applicable to both. In the particular case of mobile broadband, then you have to go a bit further because the services are actually about creating customer-centric bundles and packages of particular access. Might be access to particular websites or particular protocols at various speeds. So you might have a basic service which is limited to a low bandwidth, but you've just purchased an add-on which gives you high bandwidth access to one particular website, for example. So you need a bandwidth manager that can very quickly adapt to those new packages. And then, of course, the two-sided business model is still an important source of additional revenues and profits. And for that, it's about delivering things like charging services, but also personalized advertising can be a very useful tool. So how do you do that? Well, what does Telcordia do here? Telcordia is in the charging and policy business, but the key thing here is it's about empowering the marketing organization. In our customers, the technical organization, the network people run these systems, but they have a requirement to enable marketing to be able to move extremely rapidly to generate these new services and new offers in the market. So in order to empower marketing, you need to be able to respond quickly to their needs, and you need to be able to do it in a manageable way that can be reproduced, not having to recreate everything from scratch every time you want to create a new feature. So for that capability, Telcordia has graphical service creation environments, graphical rater environments, and a graphical policy rule generator environment to be able to allow you to not just react to what's happening, the change that's happening in the world, but to drive that change, to allow you, in conjunction with your marketing organizations, to move the market in the direction you want. And in particular, most importantly of all, to respond in internet time, not in traditional telco time. The challenge here is to respond to the marketing organization in a matter of days instead of the traditional months. So it's very easy for me to say that, But let's give a couple of examples of customers who are doing that. I'm going to talk about examples of customers doing revenue and service innovation and using that to create differentiation, rapid time to market, and increase revenue and profitability. So my first example is an Indian customer, Tata Teleservices. Tata Docomo launched in 2009. This was Tata's GSM offering, a brand new network created in 2009. And they brought innovation coupled with value for money. That was their message to the marketplace, that Tata Docomo was going to be innovative and exciting, and their advertising was exciting and interesting and different from the traditional Indian market advertising. But they were also going to bring value for money. Tata is a very well-respected brand in India with a reputation for value for money. So they wanted to put these two together. So they came up with new and interesting services to attract people. The very first thing they introduced was pay-per-second billing. In the Indian market, that had never been present in the market before. It was always pay-per-minute. So they introduced pay-per-second charging. And they got an extremely good response from customers for that. They had people queuing around the block, literally, for their SIM cards when they first went on sale, because they perceived that the pay-per-second charging was much better value than any of the other networks offered. Over the next few weeks, their competitors all responded and offered pay-per-second as well. So Tata went to the next step. They decided to offer pay-per-letter charging for SMSs, pay-per-character. So if you send a short SMS, it costs you less than if you send a long SMS. I think it's fair to say that's a bit of a gimmick. I'm not sure many people started sending 1 or 2 letter SMSs to save money, but it got them a great deal of publicity. It got them the reputation of being willing to do exciting and different things in order to save their customers money and offer them true value. The message to the customers: you need to send a long SMS, that's fine. But if you only need to send a short SMS, why should you pay so much? And that was, again, extremely successful. Most recently, with their 3G launch, they've now offered pay-per-website. They say if you only want to access one website, say Facebook, why should you pay for all the others? And then once you're accessing one, if you want to access a second one, well, you can pay a bit more and do that. So using that model, and their reputation for innovation and value, they've seen fantastic subscriber growth, much faster than the rest of the market. They moved from the number 6 operator in India to the number 4 position over the period of just a few months. So they've grown their subscriber base, but they've also grown their revenues. Their revenues have also grown faster than the Indian market. So they haven't done this just by cutting prices, being the cheapest operator, and buying customers, essentially. My second example is another Indian operator. This is a new entrant, greenfield operator in the Indian market, and their model was to be regarded as the most innovative and fastest moving operator in the Indian market. And we believe they are the fastest in terms of time to market for new services. They were first to launch dynamic pricing in the Indian market. Dynamic pricing is something which had previously only been seen in Africa. Dynamic pricing is about setting the price for calls or data access based on the load on the network. So in heavily congested cells, you pay full price. But in cells which are currently lightly loaded, you pay a lower price. And that's communicated to the customer with a message that appears on their screen that says 30% discount or 60% discount or 10% discount, whatever, on calls in this location for the next 30 minutes, say. Or 10% discount for calls in 1 hour's time. So using this, they're able to do two things. One is manage their network capacity and optimize that, make that more efficient by encouraging some people to move their usage to less congested sites. But also, it allows them to have a reputation for high discounts. They can make advertising statements like, at every time somewhere on this network somebody is making a call at a 90% discount, by making sure that that discount is available in some sale everywhere in some cell at all times. So this model has let them create new services and innovate in their market. They have a reputation for introducing new services very quickly. They introduced 30 new services in a 6-month period, an average of 7 to 10 days from marketing coming up with the idea to launching their service. And that's an average, so many of those services took less time than that. So they move extremely rapidly. That's the way they've grown, and they've been very successful. They've grown to about 20 million subscribers in just a few months. My last example is an operator in Brazil called Oi. Oi is the price leader in their market. They're perceived in their market to be the cheapest operator. If you ask Brazilians who is the cheapest operator, they will generally say Oi. They also have a reputation for innovation and excitement in the mobile area. They have a reputation for being first to market with new ideas and new features. And interestingly, as well as being the lowest headline prices, they are also the most profitable operator in their market. That's an interesting. How do they manage to achieve high profitability whilst also being the price leader? Well, the key is the first to market. Because they introduce new services very quickly, they can be first to market with a new service and they can charge a premium price for that service. And that premium price may be extremely profitable. If they can then offer that service for, say, a few months before their competitors enter the market, they can charge that high price. Customers are willing to pay it because they see value in the service, and meanwhile, Oi is getting high profits. As the competitors enter the market, Oi can reduce the price, and they can only afford to do this because in the few months that they've had the service, they've actually introduced 2 or 3 more new services, which the users will buy, each of which is, again, priced at a premium price because it's new. So they take the first service, they drop the price on that, that's now competitive environment, and they get their profits from the second, third, and fourth services. So with this model, they can continue to always have a number of services in the market which are priced at a premium price, which are very profitable, plus at the same time be offering basic voice rates, SMS rates, and data rates, which are cheaper than any of their competitors. So the customers are getting good value. They're getting a basic service for a cheap price, and they're getting add-ons that they value and they're willing to pay for. Oi's model is based on it continuously differentiating, continuously introducing new services, and they actually introduced over 70 new services last year. They've been running at over 1 new service a week for several years now. And this model is critical for them maintaining their profitability in that very competitive market. So, in summary, what I've been talking about is revenue and service innovation and being able to use that to drive profitability by using a real-time charging and policy infrastructure. But the key thing I think I've been talking about is change. It's about being able to respond to change and drive change in internet time instead of just in traditional telco time. So with that, I'd like to hand back to Tom to summarize.
Thank you, Graham, and thank you, Karl. These were, I think, 2 fascinating talks on our subject today. But we've got some time left, and I think I would take that time to ask a couple of questions based on what we've just heard. I'll also remind our audience that questions can be submitted from your desktop. So, to start with, while Graham catches his breath, Karl, you talked about wow factor and cool new stuff and lifestyle-changing services. How does a CSP really ensure that they have a role in these sorts of exciting new things? And what do you really mean by customer-friendly and making billing easier?
Sure, Tom, great question. There's definitely a piece of the process here that is available to everyone. Perhaps the application world may not be the most well-suited for all operators, but it's certainly suited for some. When you talk about billing, making things flexible and simple and easy from a customer's perspective, which often means very complex behind the scenes, but that's another piece of the story. It's making it simple from the customer's position. And as I mentioned in the example I brought up, if you offer me a 5 gig download package, it sounds really good from perhaps the technology perspective, but it doesn't mean a lot to customers. It's actually confusing. It's actually frustrating because they don't know what a megabyte is. Nobody really knows how many megabytes are used when you search on a mobile device from one website to another, for example, let alone how much you might download, let's say, from a different type of video, whether it's studio produced, which is going to consume a large amount of download volume, versus a more simple user-defined video from YouTube. So that's what I mean by you got to put these things in terms of the customer's ability to understand and interact more simply than we've been doing in the past. I think if we can do that, this customer friendliness factor will blend in very, very well with the wowness of what technology brings to light. But let me just turn that over to Graham and say, Graham, you're working directly in the industry. Are some of the customers that you're talking with looking at it from this perspective?
Yes, absolutely. The key thing here is for service providers to work out how they can add value to the customer and be perceived as delivering something that is of value, rather than just being a gatekeeper of some sort, or someone who charges a toll or a fee to allow them to get access to things. And we're seeing that particularly in the mobile data area, with service providers looking at how they can offer packages such as access to games or videos that the customers want access to. They may be not willing to purchase a high bandwidth connection for all their daily usage. That may be a tier that they can't afford. But for people on a lower tier, there's a lot of value in being able to buy a temporary upgrade. They just want to watch a particular video, and for that they want to temporarily increase their capacity, their bandwidth and speed over the next, say, 2-hour period up to the gold level, so that they can watch an HD video that they've been sent a link to or that they've purchased. And the customer sees that as something that's perfectly reasonable. They don't see it as something that the operator is being unfair in charging. They've bought a particular service at a particular speed, and they're willing to then pay for the temporary upgrade, as long as it's not too expensive. But it can be something that's extremely profitable for the operator. And, of course, in many cases, that could be done with the cooperation of a partner who's providing the content. Both models exist. You can either do it for any content, any website, just buy access for HD access for the next 2 hours to the Internet. Or you can do it as a package. So you partner with a particular retailer who has a particular piece of content available, and maybe they sell it with the increased bandwidth built in. So that's just one small example. I'd say, that's coupled with things like carrier billing, so that people can actually pay for things on their phone bill, prepaid or postpaid, and the ability to offer promotions that link together different parts of the business. So maybe you have a promotion on something, some new service, new content-based service with a partner. So you did a partnership with a particular website, and when you purchase something from there, you get 100 free SMSs. So cross-linking these different parts of the business are another way the operators can add value.
So again, it's just like I was saying earlier, it has to do with making it customer friendly and then customer appealing, because if it's complex to both access or to bill for, I'm not nearly as likely as a customer to partake in that particular offering, if I'm hearing you correct. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's it. It's about making it easy to use, but also appealing. And also learn from, the traditional retail business and the supermarket business. There's a reason why those chocolates are placed at the checkouts. They're there for you to impulse buy them as you're on your way out. And you certainly don't look at the price of the impulse buys.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of cases like that where operators can offer value to their partners in terms of advertising, in terms of product placement on their websites, and learn about it from the retail business.
So again, from an operator's perspective, it's thinking more like a retailer, probably more so now than it's ever been in the past.
Absolutely.
So, Tom, I didn't mean to hijack your question process, but I'll send it back to you.
No, sorry, no problem. I was just loving hearing you guys talking about this. But you do confuse me at times. We talk about billing, so is it postpaid? We've talked about prepaid. Are those two different offers? Or are there things that we could learn from each other from the two sectors, from post and prepaid? And the other thing that I was wondering, Graham, is you talked a lot about customers, but you also talked about the two-sided business model. What can the telcos offer to the upstream parts of the two-sided business model?
Yes, well, I think the key thing here is the first part you raised, and prepaid and postpaid. And I think what we're seeing increasingly is that there's a lot to learn in both directions. In many more advanced markets, the prepaid business is regarded as, in some markets, as even relatively unimportant, or at least not where the profits are generated. But actually, in many emerging markets, it's exactly that business where high profitability is being generated. So the example of Oi in Brazil is in a prepaid-dominated market, and that is the model in which they're generating these new profits from these new services. But in a more advanced market, those would have to be offered as a postpaid service, because maybe most of the subscribers are postpaid in that market. And to do that, it's really critical that you have real-time available in the postpaid business. And this is one of the things that's definitely changing, a trend to bring together prepaid and postpaid into a sort of converged charging or converged billing environment. And what does that really mean? People think it means about hybrid accounts where you can have an account which is sometimes prepaid and sometimes postpaid. That's a useful feature. But I think the most exciting advantage of a converged charging environment is that you can start to offer all the real-time benefits that the prepaid users are used to the postpaid users. That can include things like usage limits, giving people much more comfort and willingness to pay for willingness to try new services. And you can also offer them things like real-time promotions. Buy a new video service and get 10 free SMSs in real time with an offer delivered to their phone in real time. They can accept it in real time, and they can immediately get a notification of this new promotion, not at the end of the month when they forgot what they did. So this bringing these fast-changing and fast experience new services to postpaid users is an important way for the more advanced markets to learn from the emerging markets. And the other way around works as well, in that in the postpaid world, there's a lot of services, particularly for enterprises, which are not necessarily being offered today in the prepaid world. And there's a considerable advantage in bringing those enterprise charging features into the real-time world and being able to offer them to prepaid and postpaid, so you can have a mixture of accounts, prepaid and postpaid, within a particular group. Or you can even have enterprises, probably typically small enterprises, who are driven entirely off prepaid accounts. So I think there's a lot to learn there for both the SME business and the large enterprise business, for the emerging markets to learn from the developed markets with prepaid and postpaid. So I think that's a key an area of convergence that's going to be really important going forward.
And I think I just wanted to add one quick point to that. I've even seen in other examples where enterprise customers offer converged plans so that employees can use a device during off hours or non-periods of time where they're at work for personal reasons, and then have that part paid by them and the rest of the account paid, of course, by the corporate that would own the phone number or the device or both. So there's lots of combinations.
Okay, so if we can touch on the second part of my question, I apologize for asking two-part questions. It's a bit naughty of me. What about these upstream? What about the content owners? How do the CSPs get themselves into that value chain?
I think the key areas there are threefold. One is charging, the ability to enable customers to pay for content based on their phone bill. And it might not just be a simple matter of saying, charging you $3 for this and it appears on your bill. It may be part of a package or a bundle or even a promotion being offered by the network operator. So there are very complex revenue sharing and sponsorship arrangements in place there that need to be reflected. But that whole charging area is one key area. A second area, I think, is advertising, where being able to enable users to be notified of things they might be interested in. I think for advertising, it's critical that this is done with the user's agreement and permission. And in order to do that, the users need to be able to trust the entity offering the adverts. And in that case, I think service providers have a great brand and a great relationship that they can build on to be a trusted delivery of advertising without the user believing that their information is being sent out to a whole load of content sites that maybe they don't have the same level of trust in. And then the third area is actually delivering, and that touches on what I mentioned earlier with being able to create broadband policies to allow particular content to be delivered using a particular bandwidth, which may be above the level that the user is currently subscribed to. So those seem to be the most obvious ways to me. I don't know if Karl has any thoughts.
Well, I just had one other thought there. I'll go back to the advertising model. I mean, we're all very familiar with push ads and how everybody thinks those are a plague, and they are. And we've seen evolution of advertising over the last few years. I think advertising is still one of those areas that is a huge untapped resource. And one possibility as we continue to evolve the capabilities, both from computing capacity and just, but the ability to handle complex billing scenarios, is the fact that there are certain advertisers who would love to create very specialized advertisements that would be focused or sent towards certain demographics within a service provider's, subscriber base. Maybe it's the people under 30. Maybe it's the people over 45. I mean, the operators have that kind of ability to sift and sort. But it can go a step further with policy as well, because they could also say an advertiser may want to lock in an SLA and say, don't play my advertisement to this target market, unless, of course, you can validate that they have a set download capacity, whether it be on a fixed or a mobile connection. They've got to have a certain download speed in order to play my particular advertising content correctly. Otherwise, if they play it at a slower speed, then all kinds of problems come. The customer experience is not what it should be, and that, of course, reflects poorly back onto my advertising brand. So it's just one more kind of those enhancements that, is it here today? I'm not sure it is, but it's almost there if it's not. So it's just another example of where operators can play in a number of ways.
Okay, thank you for that. Just one final question to you both. I think one of the most fascinating announcements for me, at least in Barcelona this year, was the arrival of the WAC, the Wholesale Application Community's version 3.0 specification, which built in the one API interface to the network. Is this something that's going to change the personalization that we've been talking about here? We talked a lot about tablets and apps up front, which doesn't involve a lot of the network. So is this the way for the network operators to break back into that loop?
Well, Tom, let me take this first, and I know Graham's got something to add here, too. First and foremost, if you go back just 2 years, maybe 3 years ago, when the whole application community almost did not exist, and it was with the launch of things like the iPhone and then later with the Android smartphone, that the application community suddenly started to blossom. And, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry today, and it just continues to get bigger and better. But if you go back to those starting points, and I would dare say that even today, those developers in that community as a whole have made one big plea to the service provider community, and that is, give us access to things that are important to the network and network functionality. Through a secure interface, you define how that is. Give us information about location, presence, and especially other factors, which in this case could even include some fancy billing capabilities. Bring us that level of opportunity, and then we'll involve those into the applications we develop, and that will provide some absolutely fantastic customer experiences. It will draw an increased level of spend from the customer community in all ways, both from an advertising perspective, an entertainment perspective, and certainly from a business perspective. But so far, I haven't seen a lot of delivery in that area for that need. Hence, the wholesale applications community, or WAC, and the one API that's is mentioned here, holds a lot of hope, because if they can get that worked out, this is going to be an answer. However, I will say that standards sometimes work very, very slow. Participants within these groups all have their own unique ways of approaching the problem. And if this issue isn't addressed quickly and easily, there's going to be just a severe loss of interest by that developer community who's going to find other ways to get a lot of what they want right now. Graham?
I think I just endorse that. The impression I get from the application community and other over-the-top players like the big websites are that they don't particularly want to reinvent the tools that the network operators have. They would be very happy to use them if they existed and were available for a reasonable price, of course, and from the network operators. So I'm very hopeful that that this model where the networks can expose capabilities which are then used by apps on the handset and also by websites can be exploited to generate new revenues. Like you, I have concerns that if that doesn't happen fairly quickly, then the app developers will create their own alternatives. But I think there's a great opportunity here, and I'm very hopeful that WAC will be a tool in moving that forward.
Okay, so thank you both. We're running out of time. So I'd like to thank everyone who joined us today, especially Karl and Graham for their presentations and some fascinating discussion there. Telcordia and Stratecast will both be present at the Management World Show in Dublin in May 24th. If we could meet some of you and carry on that discussion, that would be fabulous. And remember, you can still ask questions, and we'll get back to you by email. That ends our webcast for today. Thank you very much.